Welcome back. I'm Gila Ross, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Power Up podcast, where we share short, relatable ideas to impact and upgrade your everyday life. Okay, question for us all. Would you do the right thing if you weren't going to get a reward?
99% is right, but there's always that 1% too. But sometimes it's right, but there's some gray areas still.
Yeah.
Antignos of Socho received the tradition from Shimon the righteous. He would say, "Do not be like slaves who serve their master for the sake of reward. Rather, be like slaves who serve their master not for the sake of reward." The fear of heaven should be upon you.
Okay, what questions come up when you read this?
Why do you have to say the same thing in the positive and the negative? Like, why can't you just say instead of?
Hold on a second, but Judaism teaches us that you will get a reward, right?
Because then the motivation is obtaining something. So maybe if you were not going to obtain it, you would not have the same motivation. It's not out of kindness, it's out of gain, and it's selfish.
So, yeah, I hear that. Anything else?
I can't get this image of a little puppy dog, all excited about getting treat just because it goes potty outside instead of inside. And it's like, I don't want to be compared to a little puppy dog.
What's actually fascinating about this, and it's very similar to what Hannah just told us, is that when the Mishnah talks about don't be like a slave who serves the master for a reward, the Mishnah is actually saying the reason why you shouldn't do that is because the reward in this world, the reward for a mitzvah is not going to be in this world. Why? Because there's no currency. It's kind of like, you know, I remember years ago we did a road trip through Montana, right? And these tiny little villages in Montana. I mean, that's just where we happen to be, right? But I'm sure there's many other
I
places.
manage Montana actually, so I know
Right.
about Montana.
Yeah, so you're driving through road, you know, miles and miles of roads, and then you get chance upon these like tiny little towns. Imagine you go into a little store in a town, like a small village store, and you want to buy a drink. I don't know, a bottle of water, a bottle of Coke, whatever it is that you want to buy, and you go to pay for it with $1 million. What's the owner of the store going to tell you? I don't have change. You can
That
pay
much
me.
money.
You can pay me with $1 million, but I'm not going to be able to give you change. Why? Is it because the guys are trying to cheat you out of your change? So why is he not giving you the change? Because he doesn't have it, right? He's a tiny little store, and he doesn't have the currency to give you what you deserve. And the same is true in this world, right? That God tells us that a mitzvah is so valuable that the reward for a mitzvah, there isn't the currency of pleasure and reward in this world that's going to give it to us. So what he's telling us here is don't be like a servant who's serving for the sake of a reward, because it's kind of what you're going to get disappointed in this world, right? You're going to do a mitzvah and you're not going to get rewards for it in this world, right? So where do we get rewarded for a mitzvah? In the world to come, right? Which incidentally, it's part of the reason why sometimes we wonder, why do bad things happen to good people, right? Or why do good things happen to bad people, right? You see the age-old question of why do the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper, right? We see that sometimes, and part of the reason for that is because there isn't enough currency in this world for God to give us a reward for a mitzvah. So that's kind of what he's telling us in this mission is don't be like someone who's doing it for the sake of a reward, because you're going to get disappointed. You're not going to see that reward in this world. Is there a place for extrinsic motivation? Okay, so what's the place? Like he's saying, don't be like a servant who serves for the sake of a reward. But we're saying that there is sometimes what should our relationship with extrinsic motivation kind of be? Like, where is the place for it? If ideally we're not doing things because of the sake of a reward, where does it come in to do something for the sake of a reward?
Well, if you work, you want to
Yeah.
get paid.
What about if we want to do something and we want to do, I don't know, a mitzvah, a good deed, and the motivation for us is that I'm going to get something out of it. I'll give you a silly example, right? Let's say someone asks me to give them a ride, and I don't really want to do it. And I think to myself, right, maybe it's a friend that's asked me to drive their kid to school, and I think to myself, you know what? I'll do it because maybe there'll be a time where I'll need my kid driven to school, and I'll ask, you know, if I drive her kid to school, then maybe she'll drive my kid to school when I need it. That's doing something for the sake of extrinsic motivation, right? That's doing
Sure.
something for the sake of the reward. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's wrong.
no, I wouldn't say it's wrong either.
Is it a good thing?
I mean, you're not even, well, I guess it depends. Because if you're expecting that friend, and let's say you ask for a favor and the friend is not available, and then you just get frustrated or upset because now they owe you, then it would be incorrect. But if it's like, well, maybe someday they'll help me and, you know, we help each other,
Right.
but you don't get, I don't know, so.
There's an expectation, and that's not exactly right. I mean, it's that undertone of, okay, I'm gonna do this for you, so maybe not, but still.
Yeah.
It almost puts slight pressure on the other person too. You have an expectation internally, they might not, but you have it, so
Right.
there is some
So it's
issues about, like, it's not really.
It's not
Pure, yeah.
altruistic reasons, right? I'm not doing it because I want to help you out,
Yeah.
but I'm doing it because,
You wanna help yourself out.
yes,
Say it.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe I'll get something out. Be another example, right? Someone gives charity to you know how they have these like online charity campaigns, right? And they give charity because either they're embarrassed for their name not to be on the charity campaign, right? Okay, I don't know if this has ever happened to anyone, but you know, like, how can I not have my name show up there? Again, they're not doing it
Sure.
because they want to support the organization necessarily, but they're doing it because there's something about either they want to see their name on the plaque or they feel bad about not seeing it. Is that right or wrong?
well, they're still doing a mitzvah.
They are still doing a mitzvah.
So
Yeah.
could it be like a different level of mitzvah? Like, okay, it counts more if you do it for the right reason or without expecting something. But if you're expecting something, you're still doing it anyway, and
Yeah.
it counts.
And I think you're right there, right? That like you're still doing a good thing, right? And it's still a mitzvah. And I think sometimes it's important for us to realize that sometimes we need that extrinsic motivation in order to get to a place where we can do it for an altruistic reason, right? Because sometimes the step to do the mitzvah just for the ideal, right? Obviously, is to do a mitzvah, a good thing for the right reasons. It's to give charity because you want to help out. It's to light Shabbat candles because God told us to. Whatever the mitzvah is that we're doing, right? The ideal is to do it for the right reasons. To do it and what we call in Judaism lishma, right? For the sake of God, for the sake of for the right reasons. But sometimes we're not there. Right, we're not at the place of doing that mitzvah. It's too hard for me. You're asking me to take your kid, and I'm just thinking like, oh, that's annoying. I don't want to, right? And to motivate myself to do it just for the sake of the mitzvah is too big a step. And in those cases, doing something for extrinsic motivation is a good thing. It's a good stepping stone because it kind of like I can do it because whatever, right? Like. I would like my kids, maybe I'll get something out of it, right? Or I don't want to be known as that neighbor that always says no, or whatever it is, that extrinsic reason. But that extrinsic motivation is kind of like a stepping stone. And maybe what will come from that is that I'll do it and I'll realize, wow, that was a good thing to do. Right, it helped someone else out. I made an impact on a different organization. If I was giving charity, whatever it is, and it will. We're actually told that mitov shelo lishma, ba lishma, like from doing something for extrinsic motivation, we get to a place where we'll do it for altruistic reasons. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do something for an extrinsic motivation. The only caveat is that we have to want to get to the place where we do it for altruistic reasons, right? So that has to be kind of like at the back of the mind that's where I want to get to. This is what I need right now in order to get there. Yeah. Okay, so another question that I have for you all is that he's telling us not to do things for the sake of the rewards, right? But the Torah actually talks about rewards. Torah tells us if you do X, Y, Z, right? If you do all these good things, then all these good things are going to happen to you. So why does the Torah, right? And if we're saying that the reward isn't in this world, why does the Torah tell us that you'll have all these good things like rain in the right time, and you'll be, you'll have abundance, and you'll have all these blessings in your life?
So what's the question then? I'm sorry.
What Antignos just told us, don't be like a slave that serves its master in order for the sake of reward, because there isn't enough reward in this world for it. And yet we see in the Torah that the Torah says, if you keep the mitzvahs, these are the good things that are going to happen to you.
But when you go up.
But some of it is in this world. It says, you'll get rain in its right time, and it's stuff like that. The fields will be abundant, and you'll have abundance in your life.
Well, because he wants you to serve him, and so these things enable you to fulfill and live the Torah, because a lot of the Torah laws have to be done in Israel. And so basically he's saying, if you follow it, I'm going to be able to make you prosperous so you can continue to bring your offerings and celebrate all the Hagim and live in the land without people attacking you.
I want to make, which you pointed out a little bit, is that when the Torah says, if you keep the mitzvahs, you'll get, for example, rain in its right time. It looks like that's the reward, but that's not actually the reward. It's kind of like someone who goes to work, right? And they do a good job, and the company gives them a laptop.
Yeah.
Why is the company giving them a laptop?
They needed it.
So they can do more work.
So they can do their work, right? They can do their work. At the end of the day, at the end of the week, or the end of the month, or whatever it is, they're going to get a paycheck.
It comes with a package.
Yeah, the laptop doesn't get deducted from the paycheck, right?
Sure.
Then there's kind of like two different things. There's the wages that you get for the salary that you get for doing the work, and then there's the tools that the company will give you in order that you can do your job. And that's kind of what the Torah is kind of saying, right? When the Torah is saying, if you do all these things, you will get rain in the right time, and you will get this, and you will get the other. It's kind of like saying, Hashem is telling us, God is telling us that if you keep the Torah and the mitzvahs, then God will give you the lifestyle so that you can focus on doing more. It's kind of like the tools so that you can continue to do more good deeds and more and study more Torah, right? It's separate from the reward we're going to get for doing a mitzvah, right?
It's also the saying as mitzvah keneged mitzvah, meaning you do a mitzvah and then it leads to another mitzvah. So
Yeah.
it's supposed to be kind of like they say the reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah. I heard that.
Yes, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, that the reward for a mitzvah is the opportunity to do another mitzvah. It's kind of like that it's easier to do a mitzvah when you're not worrying about having to put bread on the table, right? It's easier to focus on our spirituality if we're not worrying about having to do that. So that's why God is kind of saying, if you do that, then I'll give you these things that will make it easier for you to focus on spirituality. Yes, Emily, were you going to say something?
I was just wondering where does this fall in line, this idea of reward. I feel like punishment in itself, like lack of punishment, is a reward. I guess my question is, where does punishment fall into this idea of you receive these good things so that you.
Right, so it's a great question, and I think it's very it's the flip side of it, right? Whereas when we kind of look at punishment in Judaism, it's very much punishment is not a punitive thing that you stepped out of line, therefore God's going to get back at us, but it's a very much a restorative thing or a reparative thing, right? It's there to either come to teach us a lesson, and oftentimes when something, I mean, just the way we are as human beings, when something goes wrong in our life, that's when we turn to God, right? That's when we choose to do an extra mitzvah. And that's not, I want to make it very clear that I'm not saying that every bad thing that happens in our life is a punishment, right? There's many different reasons why bad things can happen. There's 8 different reasons one of them can be a wake-up call, right? So there's the idea, the concept that a punishment is there as kind of like a to get us back on track, right? To help us get back and realize, hey, hold on a second, I shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z, I should be doing that. Does that answer the question? It's a good question, and I think we could delve into it a little bit more, but basically it's either to teach the person or to teach society. And sometimes, there's a punishment that is given to a person does something that's so bad that that person gets a punishment, and that teaches everyone else in society, hey, don't do that. That's a really bad thing to do. Right, so that's kind of the thing, and sometimes it's a little bit of a more in-depth discussion, which I'm happy to do another time, but sometimes it's reparative for the soul, because Judaism teaches understands that a good deed or a bad deed actually has an impact, right? When we do a mitzvah, it actually has an impact on our soul. When we do a bad thing, it actually has an impact on our soul as well. And sometimes a punishment, like a negative thing, can be a way of cleansing that soul. It's kind of like someone goes to the dentist and they have a lot of plaque built up on their teeth. Is it a pleasant experience? No, not at all, right? Is the dentist doing it to get back at you because you didn't brush your teeth? No, he's doing it or she's doing it because I want to
You
clean
need
your
it.
teeth, and sometimes that process is painful. And I think with our souls, it's a similar thing, right? Like sometimes our soul has to go through a little bit of a restorative process. Could it be that that process is painful? Yes, but the ultimate reason why we do it, why the soul is going through that process, is to rehabilitate the soul and not just to get back because you did X, Y, Z. Okay, and then he ends up and he says, and the fear of heaven should be upon you. So before we say that, if we're not serving God for the sake of a reward, right? If we're not doing the right thing for the sake of the reward, why should we be doing it? Because he's not so clear in this mission. Like he says, rather be like slaves who serve their master not for the sake of reward, which I guess begs the question is, if someone's serving their master not for the sake of reward, why are they serving their master?
I don't know, it's just like when kids do something amazing and their parents get nachas from their kids, so we want Hashem to get nachas from the things we're doing.
Okay, and what's the motivation of wanting God to get nachas, wanting to get and take joy in what we do? Like if we put it back into the servant master relationship, right? There's the servant who's doing it because if I do everything I will, I'll get treated well. And there's a servant who's doing it. I don't care about very much away from that reward and punishment thing to that relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because the servant wants to serve the master because they love and they have gratitude for the master. So why not then does he talk about the fear of heaven? Because it almost seems like contradictory. Like if he's saying you should do it because you love God, right? Ultimately, that's what he's kind of saying. Why is then he saying the fear of
Well,
heaven?
is it really the fear or is it like Yira, which is really awesomeness?
Beautiful. So it's the fear of heaven, right? So basically in our relationship with God and in our relationship with Torah and mitzvahs, there's three levels, right? Level number one that a person does is kind of what we call yira, which is fear, which is more a fear of punishment, right? I'm going to do the right thing because I don't want to get punished. I'm going to do the right thing because I want to get rewarded, right? That reward and punishment thing, which by the way is not a bad level at all. Right? If that's where a person's at, that's great. You're doing the right thing. It's kind of like that person that's giving charity because they want their name on that plaque. They're still giving charity. It's still a good thing. It's still a good level to be at. Higher than that is someone who does it because of what's called ahava, which is love. Right? Someone who kind of feels like, God, you've given me life. You've given me whatever the blessings I have in my life. I want to do good because of that, right? Like we feel grateful, we feel loved, we want to do good from it. And the third level that a person has is this awesomeness where a person recognizes that God is so awesome and God created me and gave me a divine soul, and I don't want to let God down. I don't want to let myself down. And that fear of it's that fear of letting myself down, of not fulfilling my potential, like that's kind of the highest level, right? Someone who's able to do the right thing, because I want to be able to fulfill my potential. I want to be able to, as you kind of said, make God proud of me, because God's
Well,
amazing.
that's why we're here. It's part of the purpose. Maybe.
That is the purpose of what we're doing, and it's a high level. It's a high level to be at the whole time, but it's also a level that we should kind of know about,
But I
right?
think it
So
motivates you too. It's like, I know that I'm here for a purpose, and if I do something one day, that's definitely not filling my mission, and it goes from, Haiti, and it's like, it's not doing me any, but it's just bringing me down versus, the reason why I'm actually here
Right.
is because we all have a mission.
I think the point that you're saying, that our drive to fulfill our potential can be a very motivating part of our lives. Yes, that absolutely is. All right. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everyone.
What is this last question? How can we get more joy?
I love it. I love it when you ask me that. So when a person does something for the sake of reward, right? They're doing it because they're motivated for the reward. When we're not doing something, right? Like I'll give you an analogy. Let's just say someone's an Uber driver, right? And they're driving, they're driving to pick someone up. And someone turns around to them, the customer turns around and says, you know what, I changed my mind. You don't have to pick me up, but I'm going to pay you anyway. Right? What does the person feel? Great, right? Like, because why is the person driving? In order to get paid, right? In order to get the money at the end of it. So they got the money without having to do the job, which is great, right? It's a win-win. Contrast that with someone who is a taste tester at a gourmet restaurant, right? Now, let's say one day the person calls them up and says to them, well, you know what? We actually don't need you to come in for your shift today. We have too many other people, right? The person might feel, but we're going to pay you anyway, right? The person might feel a little bit disappointed because they're doing it for, yes, they're doing it and then they need the money or they want the money, whatever it is, they're going to enjoy the money, but they also enjoy the experience of it, right? So if you take away the job and you still give them the reward, they're going to be a little bit disappointed because they want that experience as well. And I think this is what kind of the mission is pushing us to do, is that when we do a mitzvah, don't just do it for the reward, but get to a place where we enjoy it as well, right? That if God, a theoretical situation, God will say, you don't have to do the mitzvah, but I'm going to reward you anyway, would be like the taste tester that be like, oh, I wanted to do that, right? I wanted to light Shabbat candles. I wanted and I think the question is like, we're coming up to the high holidays, and I think we think about Judaism and our Judaism. How can we bring more joy into our Judaism?
Well, for me, I would just give an example, like, I go to shul, and I can't say I go to shul just to pray, because I can pray at home, and I usually do pray at home. And then I go to shul because I enjoy going to Sarah's class, and I enjoy the learning part. And then I also enjoy the social part and the food, so it's kind of like, the whole experience is a very positive, enjoyable experience, and not going there just because God says, oh, you gotta pray, or you should be hearing the Torah on Shabbat.
Right. And yeah, I would say that kind of the experience of doing the mitzvah, right? Like the how we do the mitzvah should be enjoyable, right? And sometimes we have to tweak things, right? I don't know, maybe if you went there late, you wouldn't enjoy it so much. So you have to start going a little bit earlier, or you find a community where you feel a part of, or different. I'll give you an example from my life, right? Like we host a lot. So we host a lot for Shabbat, right? So one of the ways that I make it more enjoyable for myself is that I make it very simplistic, right? I don't spend hours and hours in the kitchen making fancy dishes, because that for me would take away the joy from it, right? It would become too tedious, right? Too big a burden for us to do. So the how, right? The how we do the mitzvah is sometimes we can tweak it so that we get enjoyment from it. The other thing I think that can also bring us joy is the why, right? When we connect with the why I'm doing with the mitzvah, right? And sometimes that's the learning, right? We learn about tzedakah, for example, and the impact that it makes, right? That gives us a little bit more joy, like, wow, I'm actually making a difference. Or we learn about different mitzvahs and the spiritual depth behind them, that can get it. So those two things, the learning the whys and figuring out the how of doing it, can help us bring more joy into our Judaism.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully: How to Bring Meaning, Joy, and Love into Your Life, based on the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.